The level of desperation that we are seeing right now from this country is incredible. Because on the one hand, what you have is a situation where they want us to believe that we have to fight this war because Iran is going to kill us all if we don't, of course. Excuse me. And I need that article, Colin, when you get a second. With Iran, we're supposed to believe that if we don't do everything in our power to back the U.S. military, that we're anti-American, that we're doing wrong. Here's a little something that just came up this weekend about the current status of the war against Iran between the U.S. and Israel. And of course, it's expanded into including other countries. We are in the midst of a world war. Let's be honest. That's what's happening here. We always thought World War III was just hyperbolic statements that people would make. Looks like it's real. But here's something you probably didn't know about. U.S. eases Iranian oil sanctions and scramble to contain energy prices, handing Tehran a boost. So you mean to tell me that the country that we are evidently at war with — Colin, stop that video from streaming, please. So apparently this country that we are at war with, we have now eased sanctions off of their oil so that they can benefit economically while we send our Marines to die? Just so that you don't have to suffer at the gas pump. An extra $10 at the gas pump, to $15 at the gas pump. Experts say the U.S. risks funding a war against itself as sanctions against Iranian oil are lifted. But the step may not do much to contain the conflict's economic ripple effects. In a twist of wartime irony, the U.S. has moved to ease sanctions on Iranian oil to cool surging energy prices, a potential boon for Tehran as Washington scrambles to contain the economic shockwaves of its military campaign. Yeah, good luck with that one. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, who's still recovering from the news of Netanyahu's assassination, sorry, I can't help it, said Friday the easing of sanctions first imposed after Iran's 1979 revolution would be narrowly tailored. You got to choose your words carefully here. And only temporary, permitting the sale of Iranian oil currently stranded at sea. By temporarily unlocking this existing supply for the world, the U.S. will quickly bring approximately 140 million barrels of oil to global markets, expanding the amount of worldwide energy and helping to relieve the temporary pressures on supply caused by Iran. So wait a minute. What is this like? Does this sound like anything in the economics world that sounds familiar? Yes, printing dollars to buy back treasury bonds. You are literally doing a circle jerk. That's what's going on here. This is a mass murdering circle jerk of the worst kind. That's what's happening. About 20% of the oil that the world consumes every day travels via the Strait of Hormuz, which runs along part of Iran's coast. But since the war began at the end of February, shipping in the channel has come to a halt. Retail gas prices have risen 93 cents per gallon, and U.S. crude oil has soared to more than 70% since the start of the year as geopolitical strategy and economic reality collide. At current prices, the amount of oil Bessent said the measures would bring to market would be worth more than $14 billion to Tehran. Hey, doesn't this sound like something that happened years ago? Oh, that's right. Yeah, we were giving money to Tehran. We blamed Obama for the Iran nuclear deal, giving them money. Isn't this just the same thing in reverse? It's very similar if you think about it. And if you think that this is the last that this is happening, you're nuts. We are so cooked in terms of global economics now. This didn't take long. What did this take? A few weeks? Couldn't hold out for a few weeks knowing full well how much worse this is going to get. And heck, Jen said that we were going to see $10 plus gas prices. Well, here's what I think. I'm not sure even Jen saw this one coming. But in the world we're living in today, nothing surprises me anymore. And it probably doesn't surprise any of you either. You probably are right on board with it too. Experts say his decision shines a light on a lack of strategic planning and warn that such measures are unlikely to make a difference to the wider economic pressures. The U.S. is funding a war against itself. Danny Citronowitz, a senior researcher on Iran at the Institute for National Security Studies, which is affiliated with Tel Aviv University in Israel, told NBC News. As if we weren't Israel's bitches enough. This just reinforces that even further. But another $200 billion for the war effort. Am I right, guys? What we are seeing is really a flawed campaign, not in terms of operational size, but from the strategic preparation for the campaign itself. The oil price is becoming much more important than eliminating this regime in Iran. We're replacing a regime in Iran? Since when? Moritz Brake, a senior fellow at the Center for Advanced Security, Strategic, and Integration Studies, well, you got to love these government agencies that pop up, said the decision to ease sanctions on Iranian oil points in the direction of an underestimation of how well Iran would be able to resist the assault and the repercussions on the global economy. The risks have been underestimated. The U.S. has already undertaken other efforts to boost supply, including the release of millions of barrels of oil reserves, part of a global effort from International Energy Agency member countries. Since the beginning of the month, the administration has also lifted the Jones Act, easing some shipping regulations, and has temporarily lifted sanctions on Russian oil as well. Do you get it yet? Do you get that we're just a bunch of suckers? That we are always being played for fools, that we really don't understand that there is no such thing as nations. It's just a farce. It's all about oligarchy, global domination through rich natural resources that you will never get your hands on. We're being played for fools. But remember what Mark Twain said. It is easier to fool a man than it is to convince him that he's being fooled. Well, here it is on a silver platter. We're being fooled, we're being played, and we're paying for it so that the rich can get richer and this country can continue to disintegrate into a once strong empire, but one that is not long for this world. But hey, at least the Israelis will feel safe for a little while anyway. Brake noted that the war in Iran was having a double effect on Russia's war on Ukraine. On the one hand, drone attacks have gone down in Ukraine because of Iranian drones no longer being shipped to Russia. At the same time, the Russian war machine gets fueled with additional money because of rising oil prices and lifting sanctions. Isn't that sweet? Stocks sold off sharply Friday as headlines about the war weighed heavily on market sentiment, delivering the worst 4-week trading period since April of 25, when the Trump administration's trade tariffs dominated the news. Oil prices rose once again, with international oil trading around $111 per barrel, ending Friday up 8.3% for the week and 84% for the year. United Airlines CEO Scott Kirby said in an email to its employees on Friday that the company will be canceling some flights as it prepares for higher oil prices because of the war with Iran. Good luck. As if United wasn't the shittiest major airline in the United States to begin with, it's going to get worse. Our plans assume oil goes to $175 a barrel and doesn't get back down to $100 a barrel until the end of 2027. Economic crisis, here we come. Honestly, I think there's a good chance it won't be that bad, but there isn't much downside for us to prepare for that outcome. That's true. Kirby wrote that some less profitable flights are expected to be cut in the short term because of oil prices, like off-peak and red-eye flights. He made the comments in a message in which he said that jet fuel prices have more than doubled in the last 3 weeks. Got that right. Prices stayed at this level, it would mean an extra $11 billion in annual expense just for jet fuel. For perspective, in United's best year ever, we made less than $5 billion. Satratowicz said that measures to ease sanctions were unlikely to change the economic reality. Everybody knows that as long as Iran is controlling the straits, nothing will change in terms of the ability to take out the oil. You cannot beat geography. No, you can't. Which is why we didn't really think this through when we decided to get involved in this bullshit. Now, of course, if this was a question of what the American people wanted, we all know that the American people were not on board with this from day one. Unfortunately, we are being ruled by people who do not answer, by a government that doesn't answer to the will of the people. But as Thomas Jefferson once said, when the people fear the government, there is tyranny. When the government fears the people, there is liberty. And that's what we're looking for now. Now, I want to show you just how desperate the State Department is to convince its own military that it has to go and die for Israel and Iran. Now, this gentleman's name, Colin, if you have that article, the sergeant in the viral video, I want to just get this guy's name. So I want you all to understand. Now, I know I sent this to you, but I want to make sure that I got his name right. So this is a sergeant major who did a viral video that Pete Hogsbreath decided to put out there. And his name is Sergeant Christian Bull. This is what Pete Hogsbreath considers a hype video to get you committed to going over and fighting a war for Israel in Iran.
Everybody wants my freaking opinion on what's going on in the country right now. I'm not going to give it to you. You know what I am going to tell you? If you're a Marine, if you're a service member of this country, the United States of America, you got freaking one overall job and one overall mission is to be combat ready. You understand? If something happens and we go to freaking war today, tonight, your job isn't to be ready for a PFT. It's not to be ready for a freaking CFT. It's to be ready for combat. And if the balloon goes up, you and me and every freaking buddy else, we're getting on a plane, we're getting on a ship, and we're going to go forward. And you know what? You're going to leave every freaking thing that you got here stateside behind. And that includes your feelings about everything. All right? Don't freaking forget it. So
And this is what happens when you basically become affected, when you become mentally affected by military service. You will be a weapon begging for war, as Sergeant Gunnery Hartman says in Full Metal Jacket. And that's what he wants. He is a machine ready for war. Now, they're not all like that, but some people understand a failed mission, and what this is a failed mission. But there is a little secret that no one wanted to point out to Hogsbreath before he dropped this doozy of a clip, thinking that this is the reason why everyone should be getting on board. Hey, say what you want, but there's always receipts. The sergeant major seen in the viral video entering a Marine's house has been relieved. Oh, isn't that a shame? So this guy, Sergeant, yeah, again, he looks like somebody who very likely should never see combat unless he's killed. And I'll tell you why. Because that's the type of person that will come back to the States and will do a lot of damage. And the other thing is that this clip that he put out there wasn't from the other day about going over and fighting a war with Iran. This was from 2021. This is a 5-year-old clip that Hogsbreath decided to put out there, thinking that this was going to convince people that this is what needs to be done. A Marine sergeant major accused of searching a subordinate's home without permission has been quietly relieved just months before his scheduled retirement. I mean, this is amazing. So not only did Hog's Breath decide to post a video of a guy who wasn't actually talking about the here and now, but this was a video of a guy who got himself kicked out of the military before his retirement. You know what that means? It means he's probably not getting his pension. That's a shame. And it's an even bigger shame that we are now faced with the real prospect that we have thousands of Marines overseas and we don't know about it. And tons of them are getting killed and we don't know about that either. With the few caskets we've seen, we know the reaction has been universal in condemnation of this war effort, as well as against the state of Israel. We cannot and we must not allow this to continue.